And every time you bite into a lamb chop in London, a steak in Tokyo, or a bunch of grapes in Chicago in the middle of winter, you are eating the consequence of one engineering gamble made on a single voyage in 1880. Before that gamble paid off, the world's diet was almost entirely local. After it succeeded, distance stopped being a wall between food and the people who wanted it. That shift did not happen because of a new seed or a new farming technique. It happened because someone figured out how to keep dead meat cold for 60 days at sea. For most of human history, the distance food could travel was the distance it could survive. Grain could cross oceans because it dried well. Salt fish and hard cheese could make long journeys for the same reason. But fresh meat, fresh fruit, fresh dairy, these were local by necessity. If you lived in industrial Britain in the 1870s, the lamb on your table came from a sheep slaughtered within a day's cart ride. Argentina had tens of millions of cattle and sheep grazing the pampas, but almost no practical way to send that protein to the hungry cities of Europe. The constraint was not production, it was temperature and time. Ranchers in Argentina and New Zealand were sitting on enormous herds with almost nowhere to sell them. European cities were growing faster than local farms could supply. The economics were obvious to anyone who looked. If you could somehow bridge that gap, the rewards would be immense. But every attempt to ship fresh meat across the equator had ended in rot, loss, and ruin. The ocean was not a highway. It was a spoiler. The first serious challenge to that problem came not from a shipping company, but from a French engineer named Charles Tellier. Tellier had spent years developing mechanical refrigeration systems for land-based use, and in 1876 he convinced the owners of a cargo vessel called the frigorifique to let him install his apparatus in the hold. The ship carried a small cargo of fresh meat from Rouen to Buenos Aires, a journey of roughly 105 days. The meat arrived, technically preserved, but the system was inefficient and the results were inconsistent. Tellier had proven the concept was not impossible. He had not yet proven it was practical. The turning point came 4 years later, and it came from the southern hemisphere. In 1880, a cargo ship called the Strathleven completed a voyage from Australia to England, carrying 40 tons of frozen beef and mutton. The refrigeration machinery, using a compression system, kept the cargo at temperatures well below freezing for the entire journey. When the ship docked in London and the hatches opened, the meat was in sound condition. It sold. Buyers accepted it. The economics worked. That single successful commercial voyage changed the calculation for every shipping line in the world. It was no longer a question of whether refrigerated cargo could survive a long ocean passage. It was now a question of how fast the industry could build the infrastructure to do it at scale. Within a decade, refrigerated ships, known as reefer vessels, were being purpose-built and deployed on the major trade routes between Europe, South America, Australia, and New Zealand. The technology itself was not mysterious. Compressed ammonia or carbon dioxide was cycled through a system that absorbed heat from the cargo hold, maintaining temperatures low enough to stop bacterial growth and enzymatic decay. The challenge was engineering that system to run reliably for weeks inside a moving steel hull, in tropical heat, through rough seas. What the refrigerated ship actually unlocked was a global restructuring of where food was grown and who ate it. Argentina became one of the world's leading beef exporters almost overnight in historical terms. New Zealand built an entire national economy around lamb and butter shipped to Britain. Australian beef found markets it had never been able to reach, and on the other side of the trade, British and European consumers encountered a wider variety of animal protein than their local farms could ever have supplied, at prices driven down by competition and scale. The refrigerated supply chain did not just move food, it reorganized entire agricultural economies around the tastes and purchasing power of distant consumers. But that reorganization came with costs that were not visible on the dock in London. The expansion of refrigerated beef trade into South America accelerated the conversion of land into pasture. Forests were cleared, indigenous land uses were displaced. The logic of the refrigerated ship demanded scale, and scale demanded land. In New Zealand and Australia, the economics of export-oriented farming shaped policy, land tenure, and infrastructure for generations. When a distant market can absorb unlimited quantities of your product, the incentive to produce more is nearly irresistible, and the environmental and social consequences of that pressure accumulate slowly, far from the ports where the ships load. There is a genuine counterpoint worth sitting with here. The refrigerated ship also made nutrition more accessible to urban populations that had previously depended on adulterated or expensive local supplies. The working poor in London in the 1880s and 1890s ate more and better protein after the reefer trade opened than they had before. Whether that benefit justified the land transformation on the other side of the world is not a question the evidence resolves cleanly. What the evidence does show is that cheap, abundant, globally traded food is never simply a neutral abundance. It is always the product of a system with winners, losers, and deferred costs. Today, the cold chain that started with those early reefer voyages is one of the most extensive industrial systems on Earth. Hundreds of specialized refrigerated cargo ships move perishable goods across every major ocean lane. The same basic logic, compress a refrigerant, extract heat, maintain a controlled temperature, underlies the container on the ship, the truck at the port, the warehouse at the distribution center, and the case at the supermarket. Without that unbroken chain of cold, the global food system as it currently exists would collapse within days. A mango in Minnesota in February, a Chilean grape in a German supermarket in January, a New Zealand rack of lamb on a menu in Seoul. All of it depends on an infrastructure of cold that traces its commercial proof of concept back to 40 tons of frozen Australian mutton arriving in London in 1880. The refrigerated ship did not simply move food faster, it dissolved the link between where food was produced and where it was consumed. That dissolution made diets more varied, more stable against local harvest failure, and in many places cheaper. It also made them dependent on energy, on long supply chains with many points of failure, and on the continued willingness of producing countries to dedicate land and labor to feeding distant populations. The lesson of the reefer trade is not that technology is good or bad. It is that a single engineering solution, once it proves economically viable, can reorganize an entire global system before anyone has fully mapped the consequences. The cold chain that transformed the world's diet is still running. The question it leaves open is not whether we can keep the chain cold. It is whether the system built around that chain is the one we would design if we were starting from scratch today. Visual reconstructions are illustrative. Facts and interpretations are based on the sources listed in the description.